Lights, camera. Meet the pros who shape the industry and see what it takes to join them. Beyond the Frame, only at Orange Technical College East Campus.
Art Smith has over 30 years of experience in film and TV and is the owner of his own company, No Budget Movie Company. He coaches new screenwriters and helps produce their films on a low budget. He can credit teaching and mentoring over 400 individuals currently working in television or film industry. In the last few years, he's been working on developing reality TV shows as along with other independent films.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Art Smith.
Good morning. Well, I'm the oldest guy in the block today, and I've got a long career. I've worked on many, many movies, a lot of them that you might have been able to see. I worked on the original Super Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo many, many years ago. I was a former teacher, and I heard before that I have a lot of students that are involved in the entertainment industry, and that is true. Currently, I'm working on an independent project right now that's going to be shot hopefully in Mount Dora. I've just received $200,000 for a production budget. I'm breaking down the script. But before I start, I'd like to also invite all of you to join Women in Film Florida. I am the secretary of Women in Film Florida. I'm a guy, okay? It's open for men and women. Student membership's only $25, and it's a great opportunity for you because you get a lot of resources from that. You get me free, to be honest with you. If you're a member, you can ask me any question anytime. You can email me, you can call me on the phone, and I will direct you in the right direction. And one of the most important things to understand about basic filmmaking, especially when you're starting out, is the legality that's involved. Most students that I work with, and when I say students, I mean also students that are 40 years old, they don't understand about a thing called chain of custody. They're not aware about the legalities of when you put a project together. For example, these two ladies work together. She writes a script. She asks her what she thinks about the script. She wrote the script. Who is the author of that script? Is it her? So if I sell her script for $30,000, does she get any money? Yes, she does, because she became a co-writer legally when she asked her to look at that script and she added information. Therefore, the thing called chain of custody is required to be able to sell and move your script. Every project that I have worked on has sold, has made money. And those projects require, at the end of production, you hear about post-production, but at the end of production, you don't know that there's this whole other area with the legalities, the legal end of it, which needs to start out before you start your project. So what she should have done was said to her, would you read my script? I would like to give you a work-for-hire contract for $1 as a friend. Now, anything that she says, writes in that script, adds to do, you're the owner of. If you do not do that, I cannot sell your movie. I could sit here and spend the rest of my time giving you example and example and example of people that I found in Florida that do not know this and that have contaminated their project because of this. Chain of custody is the most important thing. What I did was I also wrote this little paper up that you can get from me. I can send it through your system, or you can email me and I'll send it to you. But it lists all the things about the copyright basics. Do you know that if you go out and you shoot, okay, and you're shooting something, and in the background there's a logo, like for example, your career logo, that's right here. If that's a registered trademark, you can't use it. You have to get permission. When you think you can put music in something, it's contaminated right away. In the project I'm working on right now, there are 17 songs that they would like to have in that project. And those 17 songs I have to get releases for. To get a release, now remember I told you it's $200,000 I have for that project? Every release right now, they want a minimum of $2,800. So you subtract that from your budget just for the music rights. And the music rights haven't been approved. If I put that music into that project, that's a copyright violation. And so when I turn it in, right, they're going to say no. There's another thing called E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance, okay? That's very, very valuable to know about. So when you start a project, what you want to do is you get a hold of people in the E&O world and you send them your script and they will look at it and come back and go, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Because after you've shot it, it costs you more money and more time to try to take it out than it was to have taken it out when you first start. Okay, so we're back to, again, in the whole world of this entertainment where we live in, is pre-production planning is crucial to any project. The more that you can pre-production in whatever craft you have, whether it be audio, whether it be your technical director, whether it be your floor manager, pre-production, being ready to work, is a key element in being hired, because that's what you're looking for, a job for the future. So the three vocab words that are very important is dependability, reliability, and responsibility. If you are dependable, reliable, and responsible, then why wouldn't I want you on my team? Networking is the next important thing that we deal with copywriting, okay? Because networking is, how do you find your next job? You're only as good as the last job you work on. So what you want to do is be prepared on everything that you do. I was supposed to be here at 11:15. What time is it now? Why? Because I'm early. I live in Apopka. So I had to get up early to get here, to beat the traffic, to beat the sunlight, to be here, because that's what I've learned, how to be dependable, reliable, and responsible for any task that's ever given to me. And that's why I get hired, okay? So the copyright world is really, really important. About the chain of custody, you're going to get a checklist here that talks about, your script copyright, WGA. WGA, do you know what WGA is? Writers Guild of America, right? When you do a script, for a fee, you can get a hold of WGA, send them your script, and you'll have it there. Also, do this. When you do your script, it's time-based in your computer. Print a copy of it, okay? And then have the time-based copy on it, so you know that's when my script was written. It gives you a basic ownership of that project, okay? Location releases, something that you probably don't even think about, that when you go out on location, you want to make sure that you have a release from the individuals that are there, so that you just can't go shoot somewhere, because if you plan to do your shoot and then you end up, you're not allowed to use that location, you've just wasted your time and your energy and your resources. That's another thing you don't think about, is location releases. Also, insurance is a valuable thing that you need to, if you're going to be at somebody's place, you're going to do something, you're going to ask for insurance. Okay, so you want to find out what's the cheapest insurance you can get for what it is that you want to do. And then don't be hung up on whatever your script says. Look at what the insurance company will say to you. You can limit this cost if you don't do this. So figure out, as a director, as a writer, as a producer, how can we take that same scene and make it happen, okay, without having to pay a lot of money for the insurance, all right? Stock footage, great thing to use. There's tons of stock footage. In this project we're starting to work on, they need an airport. I can't shoot at an airport. I can't do it. It costs too much money. I have to go through too many legalities. So what you do, you rent the stock footage for $80. You get a license for the stock footage, you put it in. I got an airplane taken off of an airport. It's edited in. It's real simple. So you use all those resources again, okay? In what? In your pre-production planning stage. See, I'm tying that in, the pre-production planning stages. All right? So you have any questions for me about
Yeah.
anything?
My first question is, how has social media made copyright enforcement harder or easier?
Oh, it's real hard. Here's what's going to happen. If you break the rules, you hope that nobody is going to find you. Think of this for a second. You're driving down the road, and you're going through the school zone that's right outside, and it says 20 miles an hour, and you're doing 40. And you get pulled over. But 3 cars ahead of you were doing 40. But you were the guy they picked, right? There you are. That's the answer, okay? So what you try not to do is don't break those rules, all right? Also, why would you want to break the rules? Think about this for a second. If you think you're going to get away with it, and then it's easier to, say, you know what, I didn't know, and then not be able to get your project done, right? Or move forward, why do that? It would bother me to have you on my crew, that you're going to take those shortcuts, okay? I want you to follow the rules. Because when you follow the rules, then I can follow the rules. Later on, to find out that you didn't follow the rules means, to me, you'll never work with me again. So follow the rules. It's easier to follow the rules than it is to break the rules, to be honest with you. Yeah.
My next question is, what changes would you like to see to the copyright law over the next decade?
To be honest with you, I don't know. That's a double-edged sword because you own the script, right? The hypothetical script. So you're due the finances for that, okay? When you make a project and you can make money off it, and it's not a lot of money, and somebody uses your idea or they use something from something you created, you lose that right. That's wrong, and that's how we make money. So I think if we leave things alone, we're fine. I'm not into the TikTok world. I'm not into that because I'm too old. Okay, so I don't really play that game, and I watch it. I had an ex-student of mine actually who did a Christmas video thing, and he was playing music in the background, and I answered him on Facebook. I said, "That was great. I see Jimmy Stewart laying by a tree because it's taken from that period, right?" And I said, "But you're using copyright music. You broke my heart." Okay, so it was nice that what he did, and he sent to me, he's a student from 1975. Okay, so he's not like a kid anymore. But he sent to me, and I busted his chops about he used the copyright music that he shouldn't have used. Now, let's talk about music for a second and how you can make that work. If you're young and you have friends that know how to use your mixing, like Logic and Pro Tools and stuff like that, I want to use an example that everybody tends to use. The movie Jaws. If I want to create a suspenseful thing, and we're waiting for a pizza guy to deliver pizza, right? And we see this big, really large person come in with these boxes of pizza, and I want to make it funny, and I want to use this, so I go, dun 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 dun. That's the theme from the Jaws with the shark, right? And everybody knows that. Okay? So, in this case, have your composer transpose that. So you're not copying the Jaws theme. You can take it and change the music because your audience, that was not really Jaws, but you thought it was, so I know it works, okay? And then you can use it because you've recreated it. So when you're looking to do something where you're trying to copy music that's out there, okay, and you can't afford to or you don't want that copyright violation, take and then have it just transposed a little bit differently. So the audience will understand it, even though it's not the thing, but now you're not violating any copyright, right? A real cool trick. And that's what usually a lot of people will do to get out of that. That's there.
If I were to register in the U.S., would my copyright be valid in other countries as well?
Only those countries that follow U.S. copyright. Okay, let me explain this to you. You can make a movie. I made a movie in the Bahamas. Okay, it was called Sirens of Eleuthera. It was sold to Pakistan, and it was sold to Hungary, the country Hungary. It was sold to Luxembourg, Belgium, Netherlands, and Denmark, all for different cost. All had title changes. So every one of those countries. Now, they purchased those for a lot of money. Actually, more money was made that paid for the entire movie. Okay, they fall under their copyright laws for those countries. We don't really care about that. When you sell it to Showtime is when they're the big guys. Showtime puts it on, they have the satellites. See, the little countries don't have satellites that can broadcast it, so we don't really care. And it was changed. So that movie on Showtime was actually called Bad Girl Island, which is even close to the title. Okay, now for your executive producers, your money people, you've made not only that money from those little countries, but you've made the money from the big countries. Same thing, you can sell your movie to airplanes. You know that, right? Okay, so there's that. And each one of those whatever the airlines, like if it's, Delta, they fall under U.S. copyright. But you follow, when you hire your attorney and you do your distribution, they'll explain that all to you, and they'll have that all set up on how that's made.
How does AI and copyright work? Can you copyright anything that's created by AI?
Okay, that actually, to be perfectly honest with you, entertainment attorneys are not real estate attorneys. They're not criminal attorneys. Okay, they are entertainment attorneys. They know all the laws that are involved in the biz. Okay, what's going on right now with AI is the entertainment attorneys are learning about the AI laws. So there are now AI attorneys that are coming out that are, actually we have 2 members that are now part of Women in Film that are AI attorneys. AI is so new. AI still falls under all the copyright laws that are here. So yeah, if you created something and if you use somebody, it really gets complicated because you can use famous people to do parodies of and get away with it. But then you also have a problem creating something using people that's for commercial endeavor, all right? So that's a whole other new world that I'm not really into. That's where I would refer to the AI attorney on.
Okay. Why are some companies allowed to extend their trademarks and like their copyrights over the years, but some companies can't?
Well, again, that goes back to whatever, see, you're back to, again, when there's a registered trademark. So registered, like Coca-Cola, we use Coca-Cola. Registered trademark, the logo for Coca-Cola, okay, that's a trademark. You can't use that, all right, because that's a trademark. But you can use the word Coca-Cola, okay? Because there's a whole mess of things titles you can't copyright, okay? Ideas you can't copyright. So like you think about it, William Shakespeare did everything way back then, so he kind of would own all the copyrights for everything. But you can't copyright, you can't use a trademark that's registered. But you can use a title, you can use names, you can use, like people will say, that movie's got the same name as that movie, that movie, that movie. That's because you can't copyright that part. I think that's the only way you can answer that.
Okay. What's the difference between trademarks and copyrights and licensing?
Well, okay. When you have your movie and you want to license it, you can license it like to the airlines and make money off of that. That's another contract, that's another income. When you sell it to somebody, they have ownership of it. So now they own all the rights to that. What I try to do, most of the movies I've worked on, the independent, when I say independent, they're studio independent. They're not independent. But they're sold, you sell the entire thing. So like my company, No Budget Movie Company, that's just a front, I shouldn't say a front company, but that's my company for legality. Because I do what's called intellectual property. I don't have a studio, I don't have cameras, I don't have microphones anymore, I don't do any of that. I just work with you. So if you had a script and you wanted me to review your script, I would do it for you. If you need me as a production manager, I would do that for you. But I do it as an independent contractor. Okay, so being an independent contractor kind of says, all right, we do things that now fall under the control of the people that hire you within the contract. Okay, it gets a little bit complicated again, but the licensing agreement is I want to license. See, let's say you've got somebody that's really creative here, and they're also an artist, and they create a storyline and they create a character, and the character is just a cat with a big smile on its face, but everybody loves it. Okay, you can market that. So now you have a license because you've created a product. So you've made product placement within your own film. Okay, so like when you look at the Disney guys and the Marvel comic guys and the Universal Studio guys, right, and you see all the things that you had as toys, Ghostbusters house, whatever, that's marketing. That's licensing to another company that now is marketing that product, which brings you revenue, okay, which is important. Because the more money that you make, the more successful you become. When you're the creative people, okay, the people with the money are not creative. They're the people with the money. And they'll say to you every night, where did all my money go? Where did my money go? Okay? And when you can say, hey, boss, I saved you this today. Hey, boss, we have this today. Okay? You're a hero. That's what you want, because that's how you'll get hired again. Okay? Because you save people money. So when you can say, listen, if we did this, we could get this. If we did this, we could do this. And they never thought about it, now you're another hero again. So that's where you want to think out of the box without breaking rules, okay, to figure out how we can make this happen. So this is a giant, when you talk about copyright, this is a giant world that I think that when you're starting to enter into the biz, that the more that you see, you observe when you're on set, and you're quiet to yourself, the more you can identify what could I do to save money next time. You don't have to tell people about it, okay? But just think about it. How can I do this? How could I have made this better? What would have made this better? Because if you think about it, in your post-production world, when you're sitting there behind your two monitors, you're looking at that visuals that you've shot, and you're saying to yourself, I wish I did. I wish I did. I wish I did that. And now you can't. So you have to work with what you have, okay? Which goes back to, again, my word, pre-production planning. So pre-production planning is crucial to everything that you do. That's here, okay? Let's talk about fair use guide for a second. What's fair use guide? You know, like, I loved it. I worked on one project when I first got here that never made it to anywhere, but they were running out of money and they were having a problem and they hired me. And the first thing I said was, you can't use that song. You don't have a BMI release, you don't have an APSCAP release. Did you ever do anything? We don't need to. We're a school. And I went, I don't care. You could say you're a school. It means nothing. Okay? Now, if we're in here and we're going to do it because we're training, that's one thing. But you're doing something for a commercial endeavor, so you want to put it in a film festival, you want to put it out to YouTube, you want to see if you can make money off it, that's not a student project. So I said, you can't do this. And they were like, well, we're going to leave it in anyway, and you're wrong. And I went, okay. And guess what? That film never went anywhere. You couldn't get all those rights together on that chain of custody. You couldn't get it approved. So it never went anywhere. But they didn't listen. So what are you going to do? Go back and edit the song out? You take that out of the storyline? Okay. And then who's going to pay for that? Is that in the budget? Do you have any more money there to make that happen? See? So if they had said, we want to put that song in, and they let me go through the process, we might have gotten the funds and found out how we could put it in. Remember, you can negotiate. I know this sounds crazy, but writing skills in our production world are really helpful. Be nice to people. Ask people, can I do this? But come with like a locations agreement. So if I need an ice cream shop and you have a friend that works at an ice cream shop and the people are very nice, come with the proper paperwork and say, here, listen, this is this, this is this, this is this. Home Shopping Network is in St. Pete. I have friends that used to work for Home Shopping. It's no longer there. But my house was on 12 Home Shopping episodes because they needed a house. They needed a house. They needed a house a certain way. They needed this. They used my van once to sell a GPS TomTom tracking device that they use. I said, yeah, borrow my van because it's great shooting. All the seats go down. It's perfect. Okay? And what did they do? They said, here's your insurance release. Did I charge them? No, I said, you're friends, you can use it. But we followed the paperwork. So if they walked into my house saying they put something on a baby grand piano and it spilled, I would be covered without having to go through the process of saying, you got to pay for that. See? So you follow the rules. But be prepared. Learn how to plan things out when you're coming up with your project. Another thing you want to be careful about with legalities and stuff. I know people like to shoot zombies and do all that stuff. Be careful when you're using any type of gun. Like, I'm going to use an airsoft gun. I'll take the little orange thing and we'll paint it black, and then nobody will know. Be careful. Because, like in Winter Park, for example, there's been episodes where police officers have actually pulled out real guns on students making film projects at that local school. Okay? You can get shot. You can go to jail for doing that stuff. So what you want to do is you want to get involved with I'm going to shoot on this, tell the police that you're going to do this, right? Have it written up, okay? And they'll tell you, yes, we can do this, we'll make sure so that you don't get in trouble. Little tiny things. I worked on a project in LA where the director had this friend who had a house that they wanted to use and it was a cul-de-sac, turnaround area. Never thought to ever go to the neighbors to tell them they were coming. When you bring in real production vehicles, you're bringing in a 5-ton truck, you're bringing in a honey wagon, you're bringing in dressing rooms. You can't put that on a cul-de-sac and make your neighbors happy because they can't get in their driveway or get down the street, or the mailman can't get down there. Okay? So what happens? You can't shoot. So now you're losing your day. You're losing that money. You're losing just to feed people costs money. Okay? So pre-production planning again is critical. Another question?
I didn't have any.
My last question was about fair use, and you answered it perfectly.
Okay, fair use, yeah. Because you go to school doesn't mean you can, okay? Means that your instructors here can use certain things. Like, I would tell you this, if this was my class, I would have you watch a movie. I don't know how many of you have ever seen it. It's called Bowfinger, okay? If you've never seen Bowfinger and you want to be in this craft, watch the movie Bowfinger. Steve Martin wrote it, and Eddie Murphy's in it, okay? It's a great movie about an independent production company. If you watch just the beginning of Bowfinger, you will see how Frank Oz set it up where exposition, lighting, okay, tells a story while they're bringing up the graphics at the beginning, which saves money, okay? Because every movie's timed, you know. You can't just go, I'm going to make my movie this much because it's this long, because movie theaters can't show it or TV stations can't show it because it doesn't fit the time lag. So they'll say to you, does it fit within this realm? And you go, yes, it does. So you have to pay somebody to cut it down, it takes parts out, okay? But watch that movie, and you'll see how they take this over the head shot with the crane and bring it into this dilapidated, it says Bowfinger Pictures International, and they go inside, and as they're traveling and panning, okay, you're looking at all the stuff in the music that's playing, and it tells the story of Bowfinger's being poor and being a filmmaker, and he's just turning 50. And once you're 50, you're too old to make a movie. That's what he says. And every movie just costs $2,938 to make, that give or take, right, which is not true. But that's how much he saved to make a movie, $1 a day, okay, to make his movie. All right, so that's important.
Lights, camera. Meet the pros who shape the industry and see what it takes to join them. Beyond the Frame, only at Orange Technical College East Campus.